Bing, boing, bing. Everybody has a story to tell with Toddie One Skip. Guys, Nicholas Godejohn. Firstly, guys, welcome to my channel. This is Everybody Has a Story to Tell with Toddie One Skip, and I am Toddie One Skip, and everybody does have a story to tell, but nobody takes the time to listen until now. So we're here. We're going to know a little bit, hopefully, about Nicholas Paul Godejohn, who we only know because of the unaliving of Dee Dee Blanchard and the way that he was put up to that unaliving, or what he thinks he's responsible for, which very well may be what he's responsible for, in accordance with Gypsy Rose Blanchard, the woman who wanted her mom unalived, and therefore set her sights out for somebody like Nick. Their paths crossed in 2012 when they both got on a dating site, a Christian for free dating site, where he was looking for love and she was looking for a tool. And that tool was somebody to unalive her mom. And Nick just happened to be there. So sad. Just like she looked for Ryan on paper, what exactly Ryan was on paper, somebody to parole to, she looked for Nick, somebody that she could control and talk into and wear down to unaliving her mother. And there he was. Nicholas Paul Godejohn was born to Stephanie and Bobby. And later, after the divorce between the two of them, Nick would have a half-brother when Stephanie married another man. Nick was born May 20th, 1989 in Big Bend, Wisconsin. He grew up there, living with his mom and stepdad. His parents split when he was around 3 or 4, and he was raised with his mom, basically. He had a decent relationship with his dad. They didn't live in the same city, it appeared. And, Nick likes to keep his private life as private, I guess, as possible. But it is clear that Nick had a hard time fitting in. He was described as lonely, as loving to be online because he felt comfortable and he could be himself online. And as we've seen video of him dancing and sharing his music online, he seemed to thrive there. Once upon a time, Nick he seemed like he wanted to be a computer repairman, but because when he started taking community classes, it was taking him so long to understand things, he had to give that up. And as we know, Nick was on, and still I believe might be on, disability, even though he's incarcerated, because, Nick found it really hard to understand social cues, and things were just very, very difficult for him, which made him, unfortunately, easy prey to somebody like Gypsy Rose Blanchard, So Nick initially remained quiet after his arrest and conviction, and he didn't give his side of the story, and only his recent history up until the MURDER trickled into the spotlight. Nick says this about himself: from the very first day when I was in kindergarten all the way to the 12th grade, every single one of those days I was in special education. Nick said. He went on to say, the weird thing, though, is that even though I was in special education throughout the entire time, I was considered one of the smartest children in the classrooms that I was in, just because of my high-functioning autism Asperger's syndrome. The psychologist said that after 2 mental evaluations on Godejohn, it was determined that he is on the autism spectrum, of an IQ of 82 and the functionality equivalent to a 10-year-old. Well, we've heard that he was closer to 16 or 15, 16, and he would stay at that. It was hard for him to make friends, his dad said on that stupid show, Killer Couples. He was always by himself, pretty much grew up by himself. He had friends. Not many, 1 or 2, but mainly family were his friends. So we do know that Nick was very close to a cousin of his, and we do know that he had a couple female friends that he seemed really close with. So, it seemed like he was a good guy. He was just seriously looking for love. And he found Gypsy. It's too bad that this is what he found. I don't know what would have been, again, the life for Nicholas, but he was so easily manipulated. And I know that a lot of people reach out and they say that they're scared for their own kids and what the world has come to, and it is, and you have to pay attention to what your kids are doing and who they're talking to and who they're socializing with, and you have to find the things that they're good at and the passions that they have and encourage those to be, and to have something to look forward to. I don't doubt that Nicholas was loved. I think that, it's hard to make it in this world. And even his dad is saying that his childhood was lonely and his young adulthood was even more isolating for him because of the way the world is, to be honest with you. You make a better connection online, per se, don't you? Nick Godejohn is only known for the unaliving of Dee Dee Blanchard and the manipulation by Gypsy Rose Blanchard. But Nick was a brother, he was a son, he was a grandson, it's too bad. He was a friend. It's too bad that this is it. And his dad, Bobby, this, as far as I know, is his only child. So this is his son. And Nick's in it alone, basically. He's in it, incarcerated, in a prison with autism. And some people claim he's still loving Gypsy. I would hope not. It doesn't matter if he ever talks or says anything about Gypsy and what happened with the crime. That shouldn't be the only thing that defined Nick. Unfortunately, it seems to be. But he seems to be doing really good work in prison, working with the Pities for Parole, the dogs in there, helping them, be trained dogs for people that need dogs for service dogs and stuff. That's what he's doing. So good on you, Nick. I wanted to read you something, and this is from Blast, which is like a news thing on Yahoo, and this was about a year ago. So this was July 13th, 2024. Nicholas Godejohn's final words before sentencing in Gypsy Rose Blanchard case. Nicholas Godejohn was sentenced to life without parole for his involvement in the murder of Gypsy Rose Blanchard's mom. Gypsy, on the other hand, was sentenced to 10 years with eligibility for parole. She was released in December, while Nicholas remains behind bars. As the Blast magazine previously reported, Gypsy is believed to be a victim of Munchausen by proxy, as her mom, Claudine Dee Dee Blanchard, subjected her to years of fake medical diagnosis and unnecessary surgeries, prescribed medications, as she felt it was the only way out. She and then boyfriend Nicholas plotted to murder Dee Dee, a plan which they carried out in 2015. Well, we all know that was bullshit, right? I'm not saying that Nick knew it, but Gypsy definitely knew it, and we know that, right? Nearly 10 years later, Gypsy Rose Blanchard was released on parole, and her case became one of the biggest headlines as she continues to stay in the media. Many are now calling for Nicholas Godejohn's case to go to retrial. What happened to Dee Dee Blanchard? And let's understand something. Nick wasn't told anything about Gypsy's ABUSE. He was told that Dee Dee wouldn't allow her to see him. That's what he was told. After he was treated very kindly by Dee Dee. Dee Dee treated him very kindly. The only picture of Gypsy and Nick that exists is the one that Dee Dee took of them together. That's the only ones that exist, is the one that she took of them together in the movie theater. Nick said Dee Dee was very kind, so he didn't know what happened afterwards. Well, I don't think anything happened afterwards. I think Gypsy told Nick something happened afterwards. And poor Nick believed her because, well, why wouldn't he? So what happened to Dee Dee Blanchard? Dee Dee Blanchard was believed to have Munchausen syndrome, blah, 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 blah. Bullshit. So it tells about this, and then it talks about a documentary where Dee Dee falsely claimed that Gypsy suffered from various severe, and this isn't true because we know that legitimately Gypsy sick with a micro deletion that caused a lot of the symptoms that Gypsy had, and she grew out of some of the symptoms, and she had some surgeries that corrected some of the symptoms. But Gypsy was legitimately sick, and Gypsy lied to her mom, which compiled upon top of that. It compiled on that, and if Dee Dee was to believe her daughter, she did everything that she knew to do. Dee Dee did. If Nick was to believe his girlfriend, he was doing everything she wanted him to do. Everything. So heed the warnings. Don't do anything this woman is asking you to do because it's probably not in your best interest. Anyway, so it goes into things that Gypsy makes up about her mom because I just don't believe it to be true, and I'm not even going to go ahead and continue reading it. But Nicholas Godejohn's final words before sentencing goes viral.
Maybe to say before I pronounce sentence. You'd like to say before I pronounce sentence.
Maybe a little.
Yes, sir.
When this whole thing happened, like I said it before in my statements, it's very much the truth, so I'll just say it again. When this whole thing happened, all I ever really wanted to be is with Blanchard. That's all I ever wanted to be. I've never known what it was like to have a motherly love. I've never known what it's like to have a female connection. I've never known any of that. None of it. Because I've never known it, that's part of the reason why I strive so hard to get it. So much to the point where I don't even understand what it even feels like to have a female connection. It's missing. It's a missing link. It's always been a missing link. It's always been one. And that's the reason why, I guess, when I got so deep into this situation where I fell in love so deeply, they do say, and they've always said it, love is blind. They've always said that. Well, I'll admit it, I was blindly in love. That was always very much the case. It was always that way. So, I understand that you're a fair judge. I've heard it from both my attorneys. And all I ask is just for mercy, please.
Is what?
Mercy of any form. That's all I ask.
Nicholas's defense argued that Gypsy had manipulated him, but the jury ultimately found him guilty. He was sent, and we know because it was an unfair trial, as far as I'm concerned, and a lot of you are concerned. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole and was convicted of first-degree MURDER in November 2018. Again, 3 years and about 6-7 months after the trial. Nick continues by saying, I felt horrible about it. When me and her were in the hotel room, she kept on telling me, stop crying, there's no reason to cry, it was my idea, it wasn't yours. And then he says about Gypsy, I did what I did because I loved her. I really wanted a life with her. I really did. He told ABC's 2020. When reflecting back on the night of the MURDER, Gypsy said she hid in the bathroom, and all that bullshit. And, we don't know the truth about it, but we know how sad Nick was. I didn't know that Nick was crying about it, but I believe it. I believe it. His mom said when he gets frustrated, he cries. This guy, I just wanted Nick to have a fair trial. That's all I want. And let them decide, and consider his, disabilities and what Gypsy actually did and the course of control. And let it be decided upon, should he, be sentenced the way he was, or has he been sentenced enough? And just give him a fair trial. Gypsy's mitigating fake circumstances were heavily considered. Nick's legitimate mitigating circumstances were never considered. So that's all I'm saying on that part. Guys, what do you think as far as the outcome here goes with Nick? I mean, I know that a lot of you feel that Nick should be given a fair trial. Some of you think Nick should be out. Some of you think Nick should be left alone because, well, he thought he committed the MURDER, so he might as well have. Maybe he actually did. Anyway, guys, I wanted to give you a more in-depth look at Nicholas Godejohn because we only really know him as the person that supposedly unalived Dee Dee Blanchard at the coercion by Gypsy Rose Blanchard. So I wanted you guys to understand that, I don't know what Nick thought for himself in the future and such. He didn't have any kind of great desire, it seems, to be anything other than somebody that was just going to more or less get by and probably work the best he could if he was able to work, or he was just going to collect disability and maybe be a full-time parent. Who knows? He'll never get the chance. He seems to be working with dogs and he seems to enjoy that. Maybe he would have been able to find that and been able to do that on the outside. We'll never know. We'll never know because Nick's chances for stuff like that became very limited and only exists inside of the umbrella of a facility, a correctional facility. But you have to remember his goofy little dances, the fact that he reached out to people and said, "Am I crazy? Or how crazy do you think Gypsy Rose is?" He said to somebody that he called his sister. It's not his real sister, but somebody close enough he called his sister. He was good friends still with his ex-girlfriend. He was a nice guy. That's what it seemed. Nice guy. And Gypsy just manipulated the hell out of him, just broke him down. Here was a guy that just wanted to bring music into people's homes and, share music just like a content creator. Could definitely understand that. Just discovering music and sharing it with people, he seemed to get joy out of that. Maybe there would have been something that Nick would have fallen into, or it would have been better for him. Anything would have been better than Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Just anything would have been better. Guys, everybody has a story to tell, but nobody takes the time to listen until now. And Nicholas's story needed to be told because it needed to stand alone. And he has his own legacy he's going to leave behind. It shouldn't just be that he was manipulated by Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Take care, guys. Thank you so much for joining me on this. Please like, subscribe, and share. I'd greatly appreciate it. And check out my other channel, Issues with Toddie One Skip. Thank you so much, guys. Thanks. Bing, boing, bing. Everybody has a story to tell with Toddie One Skip.